Hey Eagle fans, I'm Thomas Mott. Before we start today's video, give me your grade so far on the Eagles free agency moves. Not a lot of moves to go ahead and break down in today's video, but there are some. I'm curious how you feel about not just the moves, but the overall feel of the Eagles offseason. A through F, I'll read those down below. Pin comment, let's see what you think. All right, Eagle fans, you see the title of this video, and the point is to break down not just the signings that they have done, but some of the other moves they have done that are not necessarily signing players that still have big impacts and big consequences going forward for our Philadelphia Eagles on this Philadelphia Eagles Now video. Again, I want to jump into grades first, then we'll talk about some other moves that they didn't make or maybe thought about making or cuts that they made, and I'll give you my grades overall on the Eagles offseason at the end. Let's start with really the one big move that they've done so far up to filming this video here midway through the end of the final week of March. We'll start with Anthony Harris. This is the big one, right? The big name the Eagles went ahead and signed just a couple of days ago. One that I was and have been surprised they're able to land. I'm a big fan of this signing. I mean, A- for me is the grade you have to go ahead and give, not just because of the scale and abilities that Anthony Harris has as a player, but also the money that he took. I mean, 1 year, $5 million is... it's like highway robbery. Like, it's super cheap. It's fantastic. It's a great team-friendly move, and you've got to give props to Howie Roseman for going ahead and pulling this one off. He was probably the best safety in the National Football League in 2019. He led the league with 6 interceptions. Maybe not the best safety, but a top 5 safety overall. It was his lackluster 2020 on a franchise tag deal in Minnesota, which landed him in Philadelphia on a cheap 1-year, $5 million deal. But honestly, this to me is a fantastic move and should at least go a little ways in making the Eagles secondary way better than what it was, which was atrocious last year in 2020. Philly Voice's write-up on Anthony Harris to me is fantastic. They get the full picture of how well or how great Harris can be. Quote, Harris's 90.6 grade since 2018 is tied for the best mark among safeties. While he didn't have his best season in 2020, this contract is an absolute steal for a highly motivated player that will patrol the deep third on a defense that ranked 28th in forced interceptions on passes 20-plus yards downfield last season. Again, this shows that Howie Roseman isn't always trash. I know Howie Roseman, I mean, I've given him a lot of flack. You've given him a lot of flack. Eagle fans in general have given him a lot of flack the past couple, not just months, but really year, as he seemingly had drove Philadelphia towards the 4-11 season that they had. But he's not all bad. He's not all terrible. And every now and then, Howie Roseman pulls a really great move out of his hat, more often in free agency than in the NFL draft. If Howie could put together a great draft paired with a signing like Anthony Harris, we're going to look back on this as a really important and really strong offseason for the not disgruntled Eagles GM, but at least a little controversial Eagles GM currently in Philadelphia. Again, the hope here is that Harris has more of a 2019 year than he did in 2020. There's no guarantee of that, but playing on a 1-year deal should motivate him enough. And alongside a guy like Rodney McLeod when healthy, you get Darius Slay on the opposite side of the cornerback slot. I think the secondary can at least be better, and that's the hope, right? 28th in forced interceptions on passes 20-plus yards. They basically converted, I mean, they created very few turnovers last year, and Harris is a turnover guy and a guy who can help out in what is going to be a brutal division from a wide receiver perspective. Kenny Golladay goes to the Giants. Then obviously you got Terry McLaurin and Curtis Samuel on the Washington football team. It's going to be, and then the Cowboys, obviously Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb. It's going to be a difficult season for the secondary, and adding Harris was a no-brainer and a must, and to get him that cheap is absolutely fantastic. All right, what do you guys think is the best free agent move the Eagles have made so far? As we, of course, will probably all say Anthony Harris, but if there's somebody else, let me know what you guys think down below right now in the comment section. There were 2 other signings. We'll go quickly here in terms of the moves that they made because there's not a lot to react to. Andrew Adams is going to be a depth fill overall in the secondary. Is going to be a practice squad, not a practice squad guy. He's going to be a special teams guy. C- on this signing because we don't really know what he's going to go ahead and be. Nothing to really break down here other than the fact he was on the Super Bowl team with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers last year, but didn't do much because he was, of course, on special teams. Hassan Ridgeway was the only re-signing they have done so far, and I think it's a solid one. This goes off the heels of letting go another defensive tackle we'll talk about a little bit later on, but of course they went ahead and needed to get some more depth at the defensive tackle spot and bringing back Ridgeway, who only played in 7 games but had 1 sack and has been kind of that backup rotational DT the past couple of years. I'm fine with this. I'll give it a B- overall, as I think it makes sense, especially with Malik Jenkins leaving and the Philadelphia Eagles cutting him a couple of weeks prior. They did tender some restricted free agents or exclusive rights free agents, and all of these, of course, I mean, are just fine. I like bringing back Boston Scott. I think Greg Ward has earned another contract and spot on this roster, even with the addition, hopefully, of the 6th overall pick being Jamar Chase or Devontae Adams, but he's led the team in receptions at least last year, and so you got to bring him back. And Alex Singleton, who had some good parts and some bad parts at linebacker, couldn't stay healthy, but I liked bringing him back as well. Other than that, that's basically all the signings that they did, or at least the restructuring that they were able to go ahead and do, and it's something to keep an eye on if they will sign anybody else. Do you think that they will? If you think that they will, give me the name of the player you think the Eagles should sign next. Comment down below. They thought about Adoree Jackson. They thought about JuJu Smith-Schuster. Neither came true. Way too expensive. But these were the signings that they got to first. And then I think coming up in just a couple minutes, we'll dive into what they can focus on going forward, as well as some of the cuts they made, which I think were great moves overall. Before we get there, we are very, very close to 17,000 subs. We might already be there. At time of filming, we're not at 17,000 subs. We might already be there. If we are, thank you. If we aren't, then just hit the red subscribe button. Help us get to 17,000 subscribers, as we have plenty of nonstop Eagle coverage, focusing more on the draft in the coming week, because the draft is going to be the focus, as we are almost a month away. So make sure you guys are subscribed, as we, on filming this, are not at 17,000, but we might be there by the time you are watching that. And for that, I say thank you. All right, so we can end the video right here, but we're not going to, because yes, they didn't sign a lot of players, but they made some other moves in terms of letting guys go and cutting players and not signing players that I think needs to be talked about, and it is good news for a lot of Eagle fans. So they only, like I said, signed 3 players so far, but they cut and restructured a lot of their expensive vets to get under the salary cap, and I think the moves they made will go a long way in helping the Eagles have, hopefully, a successful 2021 campaign. Yes, they still have holes to address in the draft, but they have plenty of draft picks to go ahead and do that with, and so we'll look forward to what we hope is a strong draft led by Howie Roseman, even though the confidence isn't really there. I'm very glad they cut Deshaun Jackson. I don't think you can expect him to be anything special with the LA Rams, because he has not been healthy the past couple of years, so why would he be in LA? Maybe he balls out, maybe he doesn't, but that needed to be a $5 million dead cap hit savings they had to make. And Jeffrey and Malik Jackson already talked about, these are 2 that they had to let go, because the production for Jackson was kind of there. I mean, he was pretty good, but way too expensive, and the production for Alshon Jeffrey was never there. He was injured a lot, and of course was cost way too much money. So both of those cuts were absolutely fantastic and needed to be done. A+ on that. They restructured Brandon Brooks. They restructured, as I say, Seumalo, Javon Hargrave, and Darius Slay, all key contributors and key starters on the offense. They were going to restructure Lane Johnson. Turns out they didn't need to. There are reports they're working on a Brandon Graham restructuring, but again, do they need to? Because right now, everything I read says the Eagles are about $2 million under the cap, and so they have a little bit of spare money there if they want to go ahead and get with some more free agents. All right, again, pin comment down below. Grade the Eagles' free agency moves. Again, not just the guys they signed, but some of the restructuring I think was good stuff, and I want to give the Eagles credit where credit is due. Grade their free agency moves A, B, C, D, or F down below at the pinned comment. Okay, before I give you my grade on their overall offseason, I want to quickly remind you guys of the great promotion we have with our betting partner, BetUS. With March Madness, I mean, Sweet 16 is a couple days away. You want to get your bets in right now if you've not already done it, and why not do it with a great bet promo code as well. Chatsports.com/EaglesBet is the link. The promo code is Eagles125. There are so many different things, not just March Madness. You can bet on the NBA, bet the Sixers right now, who look pretty darn good. You can obviously bet on the MLB. You can go ahead and bet on the NHL. All this stuff is all going to be either happening like the NBA is, or soon to happen like the MLB. So do it with our friends at BetUS and do it with our promo code to get that sweet 125% deposit bonus. Any questions on setting up a BetUS account or just gambling in general, email us eagles@chatsports.com. Okay, free agency grade. My overall grade here is a B-. They did not go out and make any big splashes, but I don't think they had the money to do so, and they stayed away from the more expensive guys. Anthony Harris, as we talked about, is a great signing. He's cheap, he has a high motor, he has a lot to prove, and he has a history of being a really good safety. All for that. I think missing out on Adoree Jackson kind of stinks. You see the contract the Philadelphia Eagles would have had to pay based on what the Giants paid. Way too expensive. It's not worth it. Draft somebody if you need a cornerback that bad. You look at a guy like JuJu Smith-Schuster. They reportedly, floated some money out there, but JuJu wanted to stay in Pittsburgh, and so more power to him. I'd rather have the 6th overall draft pick be Jamar Chase than JuJu anyway, but I think Philadelphia at least has shown that they're interested in those 2 positions. They just will probably address them closer to the NFL draft, and that's the main focus, right? The focus should be on the draft. You have, 11 draft picks? You have multiple third-round draft picks. You have a first-round draft pick that's inside the top 10. They can do so many things in this year's draft, and if they can just get it right. Big if, right? I'm not going to say they're going to come out and just blow us out of the water and get 5 of the 11 draft picks right, because that'd be fantastic. But if you can just nail a couple of these, your first-round draft pick, your second-round draft pick, one of your 2/3, this team can go from being, I think, a talented roster and a roster that has the potential to being a really good roster and one we can expect to at least compete for the division crown going into the 2021 season. Wide receiver is right at the top of the remaining needs. I mean, obviously, we all know they got to get a wide receiver. I am a little worried about what they could possibly do with taking Kyle Pitts. I'd rather have a wide receiver, but that remains to be seen. Linebacker is still a massive need. I think corner opposite of Darius Slay is out there, and defensive end at some point will need to be addressed, even though it looks like they're going to go ahead and pay Derek Barnett and keep Derek Barnett, but I think defensive end comes in there at the fourth remaining need. But with that being said, it's not an offseason to write home about. It's not one that's going to lead SportsCenter with crazy moves and like, oh, they signed this guy and that guy. Like the Giants are having a SportsCenter highlight offseason. Philadelphia is not, but I think you can still make the argument the Eagles are gearing up to be very, very competitive, at least more so than what they were last year going into the 2021 season. We'll finish on this question. What is the biggest need the Eagles have in the draft? I just said wide receiver and linebacker and corner. That's like 1, A, B, and C. If you disagree, let me know where. If you agree, then tell me you agree down below. That wide receiver, linebacker, and cornerback are all big needs for Philadelphia. Finally, again, make sure you guys are subscribed here as we're approaching 20,000 subscribers, close to 17, probably right there by the time you watch this video. I appreciate every single one of you guys and watching every single day, and of course, we'll have plenty more videos, not just on free agency, but on the draft coming up here in the coming days and weeks. For Philadelphia Eagles now, I'm your host, Thomas Mott, signing off for the rest of your day.